Hello and welcome to Balanced Existence, a space for like-minded and open-minded individuals seeking to better themselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So it's been about 5 days since I've posted. I'm really feeling this whirling energy of coming off the eclipse and almost feeling like this cleanup, productive energy in the air. I don't know if this resonates with you, but I'm feeling like there's just so many residual pieces of information and wisdom and channeled guidance that are wanting to come out, and that they're just meant to be kind of cycled out and filtered out here so that we can start with the blank slate. So I'm going to be kind of channeling into a lot of different pieces. It might seem like kind of a random collection, but I'm just feeling like these are kind of like those deep breaths of channeled guidance that we just need to exhale and get out. So maybe you're feeling like this even just practically in your life lately, just feeling like there's a lot of things you're crossing off the list or just kind of cleaning up. And not just in the sense of going through the motions and those kind of repetitive, monotonous tasks, but maybe feeling like you're starting a new chapter or, starting this new way of living and closing out these old habits or old items or tasks. So that's just kind of the energy I've been tapping into. Let me know if that resonates for you, if you're feeling like you're tying up loose ends or finishing things up or things like that. But I'm definitely feeling a pivot coming in the air, and especially with the eclipse that just passed, I feel like this is just so significant. It's like we're on the brink of some amazing pivot or some amazing transformation, and it might seem like right now you're just kind of like head down trying to take care of business, but I'm hearing like don't forget that there's always magic in the air. And I just think that that's such a beautiful reminder that our lives are meant to ebb and flow. It's just so natural that there are different periods of different energies. And even when you're in those energies that seem like it's nothing special, or it's just like a lot of work, or it's just like focused on productivity, there is still magic in these moments. And if you could zoom out, you could see just how meaningful and special and important this moment that you're in is. And that goes for every moment of your life. So just a reminder to take a deep breath and breathe through these moments and allow ourselves to just enjoy the passage of time and enjoy our existence. I think that that's like a really beautiful reminder that I'm just channeling right now. So, okay, so what I want to talk about a few topics, one of which is abundance. And just to reiterate that there is no limit to the number of people who can experience abundance. And there is no limit to the abundance that you can experience in your life. So if there's something in your life you're feeling just kind of like you've been living in this like hamster wheel of just repetitive thought patterns or repeating the same story, like even in the most subtle subconscious ways of like, oh, well, other people make a lot of money, but I don't. Or, well, other people have really healthy, magical fairy tale romantic relationships, but I don't. This concept of why is there a separation? There is no limit to what you can experience, so why separate yourself off and keep running in this metaphorical hamster wheel, right? Why not open yourself up to any abundance that you may be able to receive? And of course, I think I touched on this in a recent reading of just not comparing ourselves, but really to make this an inward focus of what your soul is wanting to call your attention to. If you have creative hobbies or creative work and you really want to pursue that, you don't have to start with this big dream of making a lot of money from it, but just the act of doing that creative work, turning that idea into something that you can materialize, whether it's a painting or a song that you've written or a YouTube video that you've recorded, right? Like if, if envisioning or trying to obtain monetization seems like it's stretching your rubber band to a point where it feels like daunting or it doesn't feel fun anymore, then you can forget about that for now and revisit it later, because there is a concept of stretching your rubber band when it comes to abundance, and making sure that we always are stretching it, but that we're not going to snap it and get to a point where we just become so overwhelmed with the limitless possibilities, right? And that in itself is balance, right? So let me know how this message is resonating for you. If you're feeling like you really needed that push to get out of your comfort zone, or maybe you're at that point where you've really been pushing your limits and you're just trying to, see what's the next step, how you can just stretch that rubber band just a little bit more, wherever you're at in your journey, this abundance is available to you. It's available for everyone. It's infinite. So, and what ways can you create this story of, my work has value, my creative work has value, my words have value, and in what ways can you kind of propagate those really joyous and positive self-talk that is filled with inner peace, that is filled with that sense of ease? In what ways can you create more of that? Because that's what's going to get your rubber band very flexible, so that you can really open yourself up to stretching it and opening yourself up to magnitudes more of abundance. So, another thing I wanted to talk about is this concept of planting a seed, and I'm hearing just allow it to grow, allow it to sprout, just to allow it. And that's that beautiful feminine energy that comes in with the creative flow state of feeling like, okay, I don't always have to be, shoveling and watering and trimming and setting up the pots and all of this like hard work that goes into gardening, right? That masculine action, that doing. I can just allow it to grow, which doesn't mean just doing nothing or being lazy or anything like that. I think that's often a misconception with feminine energy, especially when it comes to creative flow. But it's really just being able to sit and receive, just allow the universe to do its work, allow the sun to hit the pot, allow the water to seep into the soil, allow the seed to sprout. You don't really have to do anything in that moment. Yes, you have to take tasks and you have to plant the seed and you have to take action to get to this point. But once you've taken that action, just sit and let the seed grow, let it sprout. And a reminder to live with that embodiment of ease and peace and gratitude. Just to be able to look at that pot and say, wow, I have a seed growing in there. And that's magical. It's beautiful. Even when you're feeling discouraged, or even when you're just feeling so tired of all the gardening you've had to be doing, or you're just feeling like, well, I don't see a sprout yet, I don't know. Reminder that that's just egoic expectations, and that really the act of being able to try to grow this seed is the beauty of life. And that's just like kind of related to abundance, is like when it comes to the things we want to manifest and the action that we have to take, balancing that with those moments of just surrendering, which leads me to another point, which is like surrendering to the fact that we don't always consciously understand why things are happening, whether it's like, why is this seed not growing? Why is that Why is the seed taking so long, right? Like, we don't always have full control over how the seed sprouts or when or which seed sprout, right? And that's why I think it's so important to follow those whispers of your soul. When your soul has a little bit of a passion that peeks through and you find yourself curious about something, follow that, because that's all of the little seeds that you're planting, and you don't know which of them will grow into that final tree that's going to bring you fruit for the rest of your life, right? And surrendering to this concept is crucial, because we really can't always consciously grasp why things happen the way they do. We can almost always retrospectively look back and understand, oh, well, because it happened that way, that led to this. And, that's something that I can tap into gratitude for, right? Like, usually we can have that kind of self-reflective retrospection. But in the moment, it's so helpful to just recognize, you know what, I don't really know why this isn't working out, but I'm sure that there's a greater divine energy at play here. Because that is another thing that's really gonna kind of, I'm hearing lubricate those areas of tension and resistance. Those things that are when you're squeezing the soil or the pot, and you're picking it up and you're digging up the soil to see what the seed looks like. All of that tension and that feeling of resistance of, why isn't this happening, and I want to control it more. That's that energy that's going to completely destroy your manifestations, right? I mean, imagine if you're digging up a seed after you've planted it, that could be detrimental for its growth, right? So any areas where you're feeling well, but why isn't it happening then? I've taken the action, why isn't it happening? Or, why, egoically, why am I not getting what I want, right? There's an aspect of surrender. And in that surrender is when we can tap into our feelings, which I'm getting chills right now. Tapping into our feelings of, does this feel right? Is my ego having expectations, but overall this project or this life direction feels right? Or am I recognizing some crucial information about a pivot of where I want my life to go, right? If we're bringing it back to our feelings, which we can only do so by kind of surrendering to the state of our physical world or the state of our external circumstances, right? Because if your emotions are dictated by that, then you're constantly just in a reactive state of, okay, the seed didn't grow, so I'm in a bad mood, or I feel rejected, or I feel worthless, or, oh, the seed did grow, so I feel good. Those are not the feelings I'm talking about. I'm talking about the feelings where we say, all right, we plant that seed. Yeah, maybe some days I feel discouraged. Maybe some days I feel encouraged. But ultimately, everything I do, I bring it back. I find that I tap into that place of peace. And that's what allows me to be guided by my feelings in the first place, right? If we want to think of it this way, it starts with your feelings, and then the feelings are what lead you to even plant the seed, right? Rather than, okay, I'm planting these seeds, I'm doing it because I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this, and then however the seed grows is going to dictate my feelings, right? That's a backwards way. What we want to do is we want to be soul led by our feelings to plant different seeds. Those whispers I talked about, those whispers of your soul, when your soul has a little nudge, and some of it may not be so subtle. It might be something that you're just so pulled to do, and you just feel it with all of your heart that you're meant to pursue this hobby or pursue this career or, start this project. or take this one action. Those are like the crucial, that's the crucial first step to abundance, right? How are you going to get that tree, that fruit tree that's going to bear fruit for life, right? The tree that's going to live through centuries, that abundance, right? Like, how are you going to get to that point? Well, of course, you have to grow it from a seed, but how do you even know to plant that seed, right? This is like that extra layer when we really break down like how abundance comes to us. So this has been a very long rant on abundance. I didn't expect it to be this long, but I hope that this analogy is helpful. And I want to channel into any other messages that might want to come through here. Yeah, I'm feeling like there could be some energy of heartbreak or tragic experiences that I'm also hearing, like headaches. You may be experiencing a lot of headaches recently. When we can, like I said before, we can look back and recognize the lessons we learned, but maybe how it taught us to be resilient. But even in the moment, if we can recognize, you know what, I'm absolutely distraught, I'm heartbroken, and I may not understand why this is happening or what good is going to come of this. Or maybe on some level I can even understand, like from on a mental level, that I'm learning and this is part of life, but it doesn't take away the fact that it's so painful, right? That self-awareness is so crucial to like your oneness with the cosmic energy. Your angels and guides are always with you, right? And if you're able to tap into that, or at least just have this baseline mental understanding, even in a moment of feeling emotionally distraught, heartbroken, if you can have at least a baseline mental understanding of there's something greater at play here. I may not feel great right now, but I can accept and surrender to that. That baseline is going to set you up for complete success and abundance. You don't have to consciously know what's at play, but you will thrive if you can consciously know that there is something at play. There's something behind the scenes. There's some magic that's underlying every experience we're going through. And if we can at least just know that, we don't have to feel it in every moment. We don't have to feel that magic. Sometimes we will just feel sad, right? We will just feel frustrated or heartbroken. Like, that is the spectrum of the human emotions that we're meant to experience on earth here. But it's that consciousness that if we can always be peeking through with that knowledge of, okay, there's something bigger at play here. That's the part of spirituality that really can boost the quality of your life. And, we're still able to honor those negative emotions, right? Like, we still want to allow ourselves to feel that way. We're not spiritually bypassing, right? We're not trying to avoid the negative feelings and just saying, well, there's something bigger at play, so therefore I should feel good. No, we're totally allowing ourselves to feel sad. We don't want any kind of toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing, right? We want to surrender and feel the negative emotions. And we want to really work with those somatics and feel it in our body and allow ourselves to process things and heal our trauma. And then naturally our feelings will bring us back to that place of gratitude and optimism, even in the face of those negative or difficult situations. If we have that connection with source energy and that understanding that there is something bigger at play. We don't have to know what it is, but if we have that understanding, then our feelings will naturally, they will run their course. They will feel, when it comes to the negative feelings, they will run their course, and then they will naturally gravitate back to that home base, that foundation, that baseline of gratitude and optimism. And this is like a lifestyle, a way of living, right? It's like it's like a complete perspective. It's like a complete way to view the world. This type of spirituality, of surrendering to something bigger than you. It's really valuable, I'm hearing. So, I want to move on to some other topics. So 2 things just came to me. One is what you're doing is enough. And the other, well, let me start with this one. What you're doing is enough. This is what I'm hearing really strongly. I think that especially, and this is kind of this headache energy is coming back, like someone might be feeling completely overwhelmed, going through a spiritual awakening, rewriting this definition of abundance, really trying to overwrite their scarcity mindset, really trying to rewire those neural pathways. It's a lot of work. It's a lot to do, especially when we're busy with our jobs and our families and our friends and all of these other obligations. It's a busy world, or like a busy state of mind that we're living in, a lot of us, most of us. And so taking on that inner work on top of all of the other obligations you have in your life, like, let's not underestimate like what an accomplishment and what a feat that is, what a challenge it is for you to sign up to do that, right? And it's a beautiful spiritual journey, and it's nurturing for your soul. It's such a good deed for your soul. It's like a noble pursuit, I'm hearing. And so there's just this reminder that like what you're doing is enough. Like, you don't have to be feeling like there's always more. There's always something better that you need to achieve. That message came through really strongly. And the second thing is about kind of closing this loop, or kind of coming full circle, which is when we started off this message, we were talking about feeling like there are a lot of things that we're closing out in our lives right now. And so angels are telling me that it can be very valuable for you to take the time to pause. And I know that sounds like, well, but I've got all this stuff I've got to finish. And, we're on to the next chapter. We're in that kind of go period of our transformation. And the thing is that pausing is part of the transformation, right? It's not this thing we do when all of the rest of the work is done. And so I'm getting the message strongly that taking that time to really feel your body and, meditate and even journal about it, if that's something that you enjoy doing, is crucial, especially in a time of pivot like this. As we finish this eclipse and, we're tying up loose ends and we're getting ready to, move on to the next chapter of this journey. It's like the analogy of if you're just a degree off, whether it's in a boat or an airplane, you could end up on a completely different part of the world, right? It is at this pivotal moment of your transformation that your angels are reminding you of the value of pausing and pulling out your map, taking the measurements, figuring out exactly what direction we want to be heading right now. In the analogy of the boat or airplane, right? Like, where exactly do I want to be what direction do I want to be facing right now before I hit the gas pedal and before we go? You know, as I'm turning the wheels, like where am I turning it to? You know, I'm kind of seeing like a car doing like donuts. That's not the way that we want to turn, right? That's the message I'm hearing. I want to stop at the intersection. I want to come to a full stop. And I want to look at the forks ahead of the road ahead of me. And imagine there could be 100 forks in the road. And if you take, you know, the 5 that are next to each other, maybe it seems like they're kind of going the same direction, but those 5 forks that are just clumped next to each other, you know, just because the paths themselves lie next to each other or like in parallel, again, a degree difference could mean a completely different path. So I don't know, it could be 5 forks, it could be 100, but ultimately there are infinite ways you could be directing your energy, right? If there's 20 things that are important to you in life that you want to be prioritizing, which I bet if you list it out, you could easily list out 20 things that on a daily or weekly basis you want to take the time to do, whether it's like small things as part of your habits or routine or rituals, or big projects or big time consuming things like, you know, work, your day-to-day work, or taking care of your family, or seeing your friends, or things that are like obvious priorities of life, like those kind of basic facets of life. But like if you listed 20 things, there's already like, I'm flashing back to like math classes where you calculate like all of the different ways that you could order those 20 things, right? It's like 20 times 19 times 18 times 17, all the way down to 1. That multiplication equation equates to the total number of ways that you could prioritize those things. You could put family first. You could put work first. You could put that one little hobby that you've been thinking about doing, but maybe you haven't started yet first. You could put, you know, having your morning tea and listening to the birds chirp in the morning first. Like there are so many infinite ways for you to prioritize. So that's the message that is coming through. I don't know if the recording picked up the siren in the background, but that could for sure be a synchronicity if this last message was resonating with you. That's just added confirmation for you to really pause and think about the direction you want to go. Think about what's important to you, because out of all of those seeds, you want to set yourself up for the type of abundance that your soul is really calling you to do. So to really surrender to that divine source energy that is running through us, right? It's that light that's running through us. It's running through our veins. It's running through our heart. It's through our whole body, right? How can we be the channel? How can we be the vehicle for that abundant, divine source energy? So that is where I'm going to leave it for today. Let me know in the comments if anything resonated, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.